All right, we're going to call it to order. I know we have one more person on their way, but welcome to the June 8th, 2026 Community and Economic Affairs Commission meeting. Can I please have a roll call?
Yes. Chairperson Gansey?
Here.
Erickson is not here tonight. Cabasco? Here. Suffern? Here. Densford? Here. O'Hare? Gorski's out. Toloski, is she here? No. Weatherton? Here. Skotak?
Here.
You said Commissioner Cook is on his way?
Yeah, he said he'd be here 5 minutes.
Okay, and Jeff Peters is not here, but we do have a quorum as of right now.
Amy's coming in.
Oh, Amy is?
I will let Amy get seated.
Okay. I will mark her present.
Right. Marking you present, Amy. No, it's all right. We have one more coming. All right, with that, can I get a motion for the approval of the May 12th, 2026 meeting minutes?
I move for approving the minutes.
Moved by Commissioner Suffern, seconded by Commissioner Weatherton. Any discussion? All right, please call the roll.
Sure. Suffern?
Yes.
O'Hare? Skotak?
Yes.
Weatherton? Yes. Toloski? Or
Yes.
for the minutes yet? Densford? Yes. Cabasco? Yes. And Chairperson Gansey?
Yes. And next, do we have any public comment? None out in the audience, none online. So we'll move on to the economic indicators report. And I always love seeing this report. It's really gives a good snapshot. And as Tony will go over, a lot of these numbers are what people or businesses ask for when they're looking at Bartlett. Because they have their businesses, especially the larger ones or franchises, have numbers that they take a look at or that they require before choosing a location. So I'll let Tony take it away on that.
Thank you so much. And as I sometimes say, for those of you who were previously on the Economic Development Commission, I always like to say for this report, I pretend to be an economist for about a half hour once a year. On a micro level, you know, we're not talking about the U.S. or the state or the county or the region, although all of those certainly have an effect on our own economic indicators. And again, as I'd like to provide a little bit of background on this, that a few years coming out of the big recession, the recession that was in 08 and 09, those of you who have been in town for a while will recall we had a very high vacancy rate. We had quite a few businesses that closed over a period of years. We had our most prominent downtown shopping center was highly vacant, over 50% for, I think it was 8 years. We had an empty Dominick's, and at the meetings back then that I was doing the same type of reports back then, we spent a lot of time talking about, you know, different strategies, marketing, things we could do to help fill those spaces, and different, you know, efforts that were being made. There's a lot of information that I included in the report. For the packets, they were in your email packets, by the way, but for the ones I printed out and put there in front of you, I didn't put those large reports. If you want another copy of those, I made a few extras, but it's like 50 extra pages, so I didn't want to, you know, make 12 copies of that. But they're the same type of reports that we use to measure our economic indicators. We sometimes refer to them as key performance, KPIs, key performance indicators. And as Chairperson Gansey said, you know, a lot of businesses we talk about here are including quite some that are owned by people sitting up there, are owned by village residents. You know a lot about the village already. You know what you like about it and some of the strengths and weaknesses. But some of these are also used. I still get calls and emails of people like maybe they're from Naperville or Chicago or Schaumburg, and they don't know a real lot about the town. And they want to look at some of the key metrics. So I kind of distilled this. The reports, as you saw, are pretty vast. One of them is from CMAP. Those are published for all the communities in the region every July. So I'll probably send an update just for informational purposes when it comes out again, because they update that every year. And the other one is,
Since you have those copies, can we maybe have a few,
oh, sure,
please? Like,
I'd love to. Yep, I think I made 3 or 4. You can have my packet. I don't need it.
just in case anyone wants.
Yeah, flip through it. Like I said, if I took the time like I used to when we started doing this, and I would almost go like highlight and through pages for an hour, nobody wants to hear an hour's worth of village statistics.
No.
So I distilled it into a few slides and hit the highlights, but I'm happy to talk about some of the other
No, I
matters.
think that was a great way to do it, but just to have it, so in case.
Right, of course, of course. So the population is an estimate, 14,000 households. We've been kind of stuck on that type of number for a while. I mean, there are some new homes, as you all know, getting built out over at the grasslands, so that number's gonna tick up a little bit. I should also backtrack to say, we're kind of in the middle of census taking, there's a 2020 and then there's a 2030. So a lot of the reports that you see are done by services or algorithms. So it's, don't consider it 0.0% accurate, but it's the same type of sources that other communities also use. So I always say, as long as it's apples to apples. We use the same ones every year. So, thus, we're consistent with where we source our information from. So the median household income's around 130, which is high. I remember sitting here probably 10 years ago when it went over 100, but there's been a lot of inflation, of course, since then. And also, it's one of those things that a lot of the businesses actually look at, like, financial services, beauty type of businesses, want to look at what kind of disposable income people have. The median age, 41.3, what you would see in these reports is that it keeps ticking up. And that's not just because, well, everybody gets 1 year older every year, but it's more of an indicator of an established town skewing, maybe you could say, slightly older than some of the other surrounding communities. We've talked before about trying to attract more apartments, like, for instance, to the Lake Street TIF, so we can try to get more housing in Bartlett that could perhaps appeal to some younger residents. Speaking of homeownership, the homeownership rate here is very high. Again, you all know that. You're probably all homeowners in town, and you drive around, you see a lot of subdivisions mostly with single-family residential, makes up the bulk of Bartlett residential. But again, it's something that people look at. It doesn't have a lot of multifamily housing in town, but again, that's one of those metrics people might look at. Some of the higher incomes than surrounding communities, slightly higher age, and a much higher homeownership rate. And I should mention in there, growing diversity and a highly educated workforce. Really, I want to talk about the growing diversity. I started ordering these reports in 2005, and you would see the Asian/Indian population back then around 6 or 7%, but it's more than doubled since then. I think some of it's due to having those 2 large temples in town. Definitely has an impact on that. And also I saw that the Hispanic population has been increasing also over the past few years, where it's over 10% now. So you see it when you're out and about in town. Bartlett has been becoming a more diverse community over the past several years. Employment and workforce, the labor force, 23,951. That's meaning out of the 42,000 odd residents in town, how many people are out there working. The unemployment rate, I put that in every year too, but you have to recall, we reported this through the recession, and then in spring You all recall a spring of 2020 during the lockdown, this jumped up to like over 10%, and we were pretty concerned about it. So that rate is reflective, more or less, close within a few points of the national and the state unemployment rate. The state, that comes straight from the Illinois Department of Employment Security. They report it every month, but they're always a few months back. So I think that was April. In terms of top sectors, should come as no surprise. Although I should say again, when I started here, educational services, U46 was the top employer in town with all the schools. But wholesale trade is very general, but meaning the businesses mostly in the industrial parks. Business to business type of businesses, like Greco and ITW and McKesson and things like that. You know, of course, those are the largest employers in town now. Manufacturing too, there is quite a bit of manufacturing that goes on in the business park. It's not just all warehouse and distribution. There's a lot of people making a lot of things. The average annual wage, 80, that doesn't, I believe that comes out of the report of the wages that are paid to people who work within the town. So again, that reflects a lot of jobs in a number of sectors, including those wholesale trade. And here's another interesting factor. I find it interesting, the number of working from home has just gone up and up and up. It really peaked in 2020. And we were sitting here going, how could the restaurant sales be higher than they've ever been? We had these scenarios where there were people who couldn't serve inside restaurants and had outdoor tables. And yet, I mean, we're talking 6 years ago, the restaurant food and beverage sales started just climbing and climbing and climbing. And I remember somebody on the EDC asked me, how could that be? And I said, well, I think a lot of people who used to buy their lunches and go shopping elsewhere, the state has, in their vast amount of information, where people even travel to for work. And it would say the most people in Bartlett travel to Chicago and Schaumburg for employment. So I always figured people who might have been spending their hard-earned cash in Chicago and Schaumburg to buy whatever during lunch or to go eat, spending in Bartlett. So 18.5, I think that's a pretty high number. Almost 1 in 5. Yeah, I mean, it's higher than the actual surrounding towns, like Streamwood and Hanover Park and Carroll Stream and Elgin. But if you go to like comparable suburbs, then it's right there. Yeah, it's pretty much, and that's a good question. That's been a very steady number for a long time. It's been always like 113, 115, teens. So not exorbitant expensive, but more than the national average. Nicer housing.
Is this a paid report, or because there's some reports that are just generally available, right?
Yeah, there's two reports. There's two big reports that I put in there. One of them is by CMAP, and they do that every year. You could go online, and they do it for every community within their 168 communities in the area. The other one is a paid report. The one that's called Jobs EQ, that's a paid report that we get through our membership with Choose DuPage.
Just so you know, like if you can go on and access this and you could put in what other towns you want, because I just had to write a paper and I had to compare towns, so you can like, if you were questioning anything or like, oh, I like it there.
Yeah, I was just curious how we stack up.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Normal, like Chicago suburb, we all know it's expensive to live in.
Yeah. I mean, there's some vastly more expensive suburbs. I think Chairperson Gansey mentioned one, but when we look at comparably sized suburbs in this area, some of the nicer suburbs, it's right in line for that. Yeah. So the business climate, one of the metrics that we put in there is the number of businesses. And the number went up by about 10 over last year. I think I reported 350-ish, maybe 360. So that's for a number of factors. You know, obviously we filled some spaces, but some of the spaces where new businesses came in, there were previously businesses. So you don't typically add a big number to that unless there's new developments. Also, we've kind of went a little harder trying to get people to make sure they got their business licenses this year. So it could be simply something as simple as that. But the number's been pretty consistent. And I always say we have over 400 because the village does not require state licensed medical type businesses. The dentists, the chiropractors, the doctors, they don't get a business license from the village. There's 40 or 50 of them probably total. Oh, I mistyped. I should, I'm going to delete a one out of that. There's not 111 employed in the village, 111,000. There's 11,000. I got a little happy with the ones. So anyway, I put this together earlier today. 11,000. But that's another important number because I think it was 2 years ago that I reported it was over 10,000 finally, and of course, 10,000 is a nice round number. Again, when we started looking at this, the number was like 7,000 or 6,000. Bartlett has been characterized mostly as a bedroom community throughout its history. And, you know, it's been kind of known as a nice, very nice bedroom community. Growing our business base, probably about half of those 11,000 jobs, or probably more than that. I've had to estimate how many jobs were in our business parks a few times for reports. It's more than half the 11,000 jobs. It's probably over 6,000, probably close to 7,000, if you think about that. You have like a single employer in the business park that employs as many people as our entire downtown. So those are the big businesses out there, obviously. So I don't think we're going to get to 111,000, but we're at 11,000. The commercial vacancy rate is at 8%. I put dramatically improved because at first some of these reports compared it to 2013 when I started doing these, and the village-wide was 18%. And as I mentioned, it was higher than that in the downtown. I tried to I estimated once how high it was in the downtown. When we were going through that exercise, it was like close over 40% in our downtown. One thing I want to add quickly, because I know it's a lot of information, that's always measured on a square foot basis. So you might have a strip center with 3 empty spaces, but it won't be as high vacancy rate as one building that has like a 30,000 square foot vacancy out of 40,000. It's purely on a square footage basis is how that's measured industry-wide. So we're at 8%. It ticked up 1% when this report came out because the CVS alone on Army Trail Road is over 12,000 square feet. And Boss's Signature, which we're hoping to fill we're hoping to fill all our vacancies. But particularly the former CVS and the former Boss's Signature would be that 1% coming back again.
One thing to mention, too, is when you hear those vacancy rate numbers, for example, that Tony mentioned of 8%, you don't want a 0% vacancy rate. A healthy vacancy rate for municipalities between 5 and 10% for a number of reasons. The lower you get, the more landlord-friendly it gets. So you don't want 0. You want to be probably around 5%, but just something to keep in mind. Too, as the lower it gets, the more landlord healthy it gets, and when you add Cook County's taxes on top of that, it can be really challenging. So just so you have a baseline of healthy vacancy rate, it's typically between 5 and 10%.
It's a very good point. Thank you, Scott. I was going to flip through this and try to find the location quotients, But for those of you who haven't heard that term, that means for a town of our size, 42,000-ish, you know, how many of a certain type of business would you typically expect? Every town of this size is going to have hair places, right? And some banks and restaurants. And a perfect location quotient in the economic development world is considered 1.0. So the highest location quotient we have in town, and I just added that today, and now I'm not finding it, but it should come as no surprise that food manufacturing is by far the highest. So a town our size that has businesses like Greco, Get Fresh Produce, and Rana, now with their fourth, going on their fifth building. There's other smaller food businesses, you know, something like Elgin Beverage would probably fit into that category. And so our location, the highest location quotient, here it is food, food manufacturing. We have 4.5 times as much food manufacturing businesses as you would expect for a town. Electronics manufacturing is kind of wide and vague, but it's a lot of those businesses out there that make components, maybe for vehicles. There's a lot of high tech out there. So anyway, those are some of our highest location quotients. And that is within the packet. That's in the Jobs EQ report, if that's something that piques your interest. Just a few more slides here. Sales tax revenue was over 10 million. Look, this keeps going up. I have a picture. The one thing I don't like about that picture is it says Elgin Hyundai, but of course, you know, Elgin Hyundai and Genesis are located in Bartlett. And those are our biggest sales tax generators now. We do have sales tax rebates with them, but of course that was part of the package to get them to go there. So our largest, you know, it says strongest months, September and December, but, you know, I take that with a grain of salt. December, of course, makes sense, but the state always reports maybe a few months behind. It's not always 100%. But anyway, the sales tax, I think they've been going up probably every year since I've been reporting this. And food and beverage is one of our really high categories. The per capita sales are below the DuPage County average. Okay, and as our retailer on the CEAC, Mr. Suffern could attest to, there's not a lot of stores. There's not a lot of retail shopping in Bartlett. Now, there are retail sales that get tallied at the CVS right down the street and the Walgreens and the Jewel and the Home Depot. Those are our biggest sales tax generators. Then the Aldi now, smaller than Jewel, but still significant. And I'm pointing out that way for the car dealerships. So there's a concept called retail leakage, which, again, you all know about. If you're going to buy something electronics or go clothing shopping, you're most likely going to head out of town for a lot of categories. So the village still has retail leakage that's been pretty consistent, but also we've been improving in that regard.
But like any kind of service, like, is not included.
Right.
So like fixing the car.
That's right. Yeah, unless they sell car parts, which I recently had to pay for over the weekend. The service and the labor does not get taxed, but the parts do. Oh, and I put on there Lake Street TIF. That's another opportunity for us to attract more retail over there. That's the hope and the plan, to have some retail uses, some sales tax producers, some restaurants, maybe someday a hotel, maybe another grocery store, entertainment type uses. That's a good opportunity for us to add to our sales tax base. And we will.
Do you have any, is there any data on like when people are purchasing groceries or products, like through apps? Like let's say you use the Walmart app and you're having groceries. is there any benefit to where we live, or that's only from where it's coming from?
I believe it's for the village, where somebody lives and orders from. I don't know every percentage to that. I know Matt reports on that occasionally. We call it the Amazon tax.
Okay.
And that's been, it's for others besides Amazon, but that's what everybody calls it. And we have been generating additional sales tax revenues from that. So when somebody does buy the TV, even though there's not a Best Buy or a Walmart or a Target to buy a TV in Bartlett, when somebody's buying a TV online and paying sales tax on it, to my understanding, we're collecting a percentage of that.
Okay.
Yeah, and those Amazon trucks are everywhere. You all know I walk a lot in the village every day and did today between raindrops, and the Amazon trucks are out in full force. So it is the Amazon tax. Industrial is almost no vacancy. As soon as something comes available, it's been like that for a few years. And I am going to knock wood, and that is not only particular to Bartlett. That's the greater Chicago area. Industrial's been red hot probably since the pandemic. The pandemic accelerated what they call the last mile delivery system, where again, you do go on your phone and you do want to order some shoes and you do want it dropped at your house within the next few hours or days. We have facilities like that in Bartlett. So, and in general, industrial is very low vacancy. Office is stable, almost no vacancy. Retail, I consider healthy, like Scott said, despite a few isolated closures. I sincerely hope and expect to report both of those filled when we sit here next year going over those. Industrial has been the village's strongest asset class for business for years, and we're looking towards new development to increase availability, like the project at Devon and Prospect that I walk past every day, adding more space, which eventually is going to add more available space to our inventory, attract more businesses, more jobs, more sales tax revenues. Yes. Yeah, he's planning on building 2 additional buildings. It's my understanding there's some flexibility to it, where he might be able to amend the site plan without going through the whole public process. But what he presented to the board, in addition to the daycare center, which is called the Learning Experience, was basically a smaller, like, retail strip, 8,000 or 10,000 square feet, and 1 outlot restaurant site with drive-through. And that, I would say for sure, is subject to change, because you almost never find an exact restaurant that's like, oh, I want 5,000 square feet exactly. You could divide it in half. You could tweak that a little bit. But yeah, and just as a side note, because again, this is something I was asked by 7, 8, 9 different people last week, what that is over there and what's going on over there. And you've probably all seen and heard the same question. But it went through it went through the development process to get approved. But the first phase is the learning experience, and then the other phases are to come. The developer is soliciting, and I've sent him probably 4 or 5 restaurant leads at least. So hopefully some of those will pan out. Priorities, this is kind of, again, going over what I just went over already, but, we're monitoring this. We're going to make sure we don't, falter or let something go. We want to make sure that we're filling big vacancies like the CVS pharmacy, for instance. And my final bullet point is what Richie will get to after my next report, supporting and promoting community events as well. So all this is part of a comprehensive economic development strategy like we talked about last month. And again, I only glazed over the top of this information, but if you have further questions later on or just want another copy of the reports, let me know.
For the addressing retail leakage, what are some programs or things, like how do we know this is what's leaking out, so these are suggested businesses to come in, and then how does the village go after that?
Yeah, that's been the biggest challenge. That's been the biggest challenge in our economic development efforts. So these reports tonight were from the two services I mentioned, but there's something called ESRI that we also subscribe to as the village, and you can create a specific report for leakage. And I've done it quite a few times. And it's nothing that you wouldn't expect. It says clothing category leakage, electronic, those are the two big ones. It says electronics and clothing. And so over the years, you know, you meet with developers or you meet with brokers and you say, hey, you represent Best Buy and we're a town of 42,000 and we have $25 million in retail leakage from electronic sales, but it hasn't, you know, they look at it, they have the same information also at their fingertips, and as you can see, it hasn't resulted in us getting an electronic store per se. But for some smaller businesses that, you know, there's other small businesses that identify like a gap, and they can use those reports as well. But you asked how we use that, and that's how. We put it in an email blast once in a while, provide the information to anybody who asks, and a lot of times just kind of cold soliciting shotgun approach, but that doesn't work real well.
Yeah.
And one thing to add to that is Tony mentioned that we do use those tools and they serve a purpose for sure, but I will say this, once the next couple of years come along and the TIF accelerates, those tools will become exponentially more valuable than they are to us right now. So we'll be using them a lot more because we'll have really good reason to when the TIF starts to take off.
Any other questions? Okay. Gee, can you get that? So.
Oh, yes, good.
Okay, good. Okay, the next item I'm excited about. I'm going to show you, I'm going to demonstrate this. bartlettil.gov, that's our village website, yes? Everybody loves it and is familiar with it.
I'm actually really excited about this, the available space and development sites, so.
Yes, so for years and years, we couched it in our internal GIS application. Without disparaging it, I'll say it served a purpose for years, but was a little, sometimes not as easy to update and had layers to go through for updating, and sometimes the links broke. I could tell you about it, but instead I'll tell you about how we've improved upon it. Is we've started to use the state of Illinois from being a community in the state of Illinois. We are allowed to use an app called Zoom Prospector. And Zoom Prospector is something that sells on its own, where they call and want to sell it to me all the time. But now we're able to use it through the state of Illinois. So this is on our village website, but when you click on it, spaces for lease, it's going to kick you over to a Zoom Prospector application. And again, I'll say this is through the state. You could also go through it straight through the state website, okay? So this has a nice user interface. As you can see, I'm able to add photos or any other information as it changes. I'm just gonna click on the first one, Bartlett Commons, and view details on it. And you'll see it'll have some pictures, some contact information. I type that in. anchored by Northwestern Medicine, Dollar Tree, DuPage Medical. So we're able to update it on our own. It'll show you how much square footage is available. And then, the broker information, the zoning, the lease rate. Usually I put my name on there somewhere so I can get contacted as well. I'll go back. I'll just click on the next one. I'm not going to go through all of these, but I want to show you something I really like about it. And I think last month when we were talking about our economic development, like our strategic plan, and Commissioner Weatherton mentioned something about being able to click on the sites to be able to get further information. And I could probably play with this all day. I'm kind of a stats nerd, as you can tell. When you have this site, you can click on this and see demographics right away. And you can tweak the demographics to whatever you want. So, for instance, Main Street Plaza, honestly, I don't think anybody cares about a 10-mile radius. I don't think anybody's going to drive 10 miles necessarily to go, past 20 other shopping centers to go to that one. So you can type in a 2-mile radius. What I use more often, in general, when somebody asks me for demographic data on a site, I tend to use drive time. I figure, how far are you going to drive for a certain type of business? Well, for a big box store, maybe you'll drive 20 minutes to go to Meijer. But, if you're going to pick up a slice of pizza on your way home, you're going to drive a mile or two. So you can do, let's say, 5 miles, and then you can hit 5 minutes there, and it'll give you the demographics as well. I don't have a mouse here, so it's hard to toggle, but it gives you the age breakdown, income, male and female. It's pretty detailed.
I think that's really nice to have, and it's nice that because I know the Illinois EDC has done a lot of work and to use the same platform. One thing to note, looks like the mobile menu is not updated.
Showing up.
So it's just desktop, and also looks like the pages that we deleted then, there's still links somewhere going to pages that aren't available, so probably just have to have someone.
On the phone.
So the phone, the menu is not, it's not set up for the mobile, but for the pages that are missing that we took out from our previous, there's still links pointing to it somewhere. Yeah, if you were just to Google available sites Bartlett, there's some pages that are still in existence.
We'll take care of that by next
Yeah, no, that's all. But I think this is great that we are utilizing theirs instead of our own, because now that's one place that people who are looking for properties are going to, instead of having to then go to Bartlett to look. It's getting us in front of more people. The potential is better.
Yeah. You can do that. I haven't played with that yet, but if you click on, I see there's this tab here. If you look up there, it says compare communities. And you can, when I go through it through the state, I'm going to show you. This might be clunky for me to go through, but I'm going to show you how I get to it through the state. That's, going straight through that instead of ours. It always brings up Mercer County for some reason. I don't know why. But you type in location and you enter Bartlett City. That's one way to get through it. But if you're a business person and let's say you also want to look at Hanover Park, you're comparing Bartlett and Hanover Park. Let's see if the Hanover Park sites came up. They use that too. I'm not seeing Hanover Park. Maybe it's later on after this. Interesting. Well, it gives you the compare communities, you know, and add location, and I'm guessing that's for like demographics. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's another one of those things where, you know, it's information in, information out. Like, for years I've used this site, but I've only put on major sites, hoping somebody would discover it through searching through the state. Like if we had a new 400,000 square foot building, I would put it on there. I wouldn't put it for every small strip retail center. But now that we've seen that towns integrated into their own website, and it looks like has a good, clean, nice look to it that I really like. And I should also mention, well, it is June now, but in May alone, I sent this out to 3 different businesses that were looking for sites. They would call me about what's available in this or that size. And one more thing I'll mention about it before we move on. I broke it down on the village website between development sites like land and available spaces. I used to, back in the day, I would do a separate one for industrial, separate, because when people look calling you for industrial space, they're not looking to be in the middle of a small strip center on Main Street. But we have so few industrial spaces available, I only have like 2 or 3 on there. So if somebody asks me for industrial space, typically I just send them the actual flyer. That's what I've been doing. There's 1 industrial condo coming on the market in Brewster Creek Business Park. There's at least 3 people vying for it, so it's not going to be vacant for long. Anyway, I wanted to show that. Thanks for pointing out the improvements we still need to make, and we'll get those done.
I think
I'm
that,
excited about the way this looks.
and it's easier for the village to add it, or
Yeah.
how does that, okay. That's
Yeah,
great.
I have access to it. There's Jacob is in our office and helped me add some of the properties to that. And I'll probably present it every couple months, maybe quarterly, to say, hey, it's been updated, because some of them have been on there for months. Usually I catch wind of it when something closes or when something opens. You know, we don't miss that. We go, okay, the pizza place opened in Westgate Commons, so that's not an available space anymore. We take it out.
Right.
Yeah. But Boss's Signature closes, and he's trying to sell that space. You know, we add it. It's on there.
I just like the fact too that I know the Illinois EDC does a push out, like they have their marketing, so they're doing a push, to showcase the site. So it's nice to have kind of a partnership with something else, so instead of just us trying to focus on it on our own, it's really good.
And just my one last comment on this for tonight is we send it out, we do broker blasts. I'm going to be doing one this month. We got about 350 brokers in the area who do business in Bartlett and some surrounding communities, and we always send this as a link. We say, I used to, back when we had these huge industrial sites, my email would say there's spaces available from 800 feet to 400,000 square feet. Well, we don't have 400,000 square feet anymore, but it'll say something like, check out the available spaces, and that's when we get a nice bump in it, about 50, 60 hits on it every time I send one of those out.
Great. Thank you.
Thank
Any other questions with this tool that's on our website? All right, then we'll move on to upcoming community events.
I'll move.
So I printed you guys out some sheets for the community events for this summer. I'll put it up on the screen. But it's gonna be a jam-packed summer, as you can see. Start with June, since we're in June. So coming up this Friday is the police department's annual fishing derby. That was a little bit of a controversy with the date change because it's usually on a Saturday. But the police department wanted to hit up other demographics, like there's some daycares and some summer camps that they wanted to be able to attend this. So they are expecting a large turnout, so we'll see. And then their first neighborhood roll call is going to be next Wednesday. It's going to be at the Kohler Fields, is where 6:30 to 7:30, the police department will actually do their roll call. So they'll actually get to meet some of the community members. They have free popsicles that day. They'll bring Maverick out. Our videographer that's been doing some of our videos in town is going to go out and actually video with us that evening as well. So we're going to get some promotional videos because they'll have 4 of these. So they'll have the Wednesday, June 10th, June 24th, and then I think July, a couple more in July. But we'll get there later. And then we have the Freedom Car Show for June 28th. There's also a free CPR course that the police department is also throwing on June 17th. And then the Rhythm Roots Market across the street, hosted by Arts and Bartlett, is starting, and that's four times that they'll do that on Thursdays every month now. So starting Thursday, June 18th, it's a K-pop theme, so they'll have a themed culture night, and they'll have farmers market vendors and some food trucks as well. And then we'll go to, which one? It's on the Metro Lot. Yes, Metro Lot. And then July, we come to July, 4th of July Fest, so that's going to be a lot of changes for the layout. We were just out there trying to promote a video, or trying to shoot a promotional video, so that we're going to be sending out to the public soon. Mayor talking about, and some of the July 4th committee members as well. The parade's going to be on Sunday, July 5th at 11 o'clock. No changes there. We're still starting across the train tracks. The roll call will be July 8th and July 22nd for July at Humbrecht Park and Bartlett Lake Apartments. And then we've got the Head to the Hills Family Golf Festival for the 100-year celebration that we're continuing for Bartlett Hills for Saturday, July 25th. And then we start the end of July with National Night Out. On July 31st, police will have their movie night and pool party combined together in one evening. And then we get into August. Again, more National Night Out stuff the first week of August. We've got the National Night Out Touch a Truck. There's a dog event, and also, I forget, one more event. They've got, you got their sheet here, the National Night Out sheet that the police did. That's their whole program. So you've got the dog walker and the block parties, Touch a Truck, all on the same day. And then you've got their golf event on the 2nd, and then our picnic in the park on the 4th. And then another car show and the Smoke Iron Smoke Fest to round up August, and then we'll get into September for Oktoberfest. But yeah, there's a lot. The main thing is we highlight some of these events, but the community calendar would be your best resource for stuff. And then obviously we're gonna try to hit up all of our communication platforms like social media, our Bartlett Connect app, so it's starting to push out, our newsletters, trending now, and the Bartletter also.
Does the app let you send this as like a PDF image?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Are you in the app?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it does send it as so I can do graphics, I could do Word. It's pretty neat. I can do it for Android and Apple users as well as email subscribers. But you have to be opted in, that's the thing. It doesn't automatically opt you in. You'll have to choose the categories to be updated for like upcoming events. Because there's different categories.
What was that? Yeah, she sends it through email, if you're signed for the email, and then,
Push out notifications if you're signed up through the Bartlett Connect app. And then if you also signed up for the Trending Now, the digital newsletter that goes out every 2 weeks, there's also reminders there for all the events.
and then hoping everyone here shares it as well.
Yes, and please reshare it when you see it getting posted out. I'm trying to use both Discover Bartlett's Instagram and Facebook, as well as the major Facebook, Village Facebook page, just trying to hit up all the stops. So hopefully there's not a shortage of word out there. And then feel free to post the paper out at your local shops and businesses if you want to. We're not gonna be giving them out really, like, in general. We have some posted out here in the hallway. But they're on the website. There's like a Belong and Bartlett summer news article. We'll put it on the Belong and Bartlett community events. And then hopefully we'll keep doing it for the next couple months too. We're doing the village-wide garage sale September 10th through 12th. That went out in the BART letter, so people have started registering for that. We're probably gonna kick up marketing gear towards the later end of the summer for that.
Do the emails also go, like, with this information, go to all of the businesses too, in case there's like an opportunity for them to like, oh, hey, that's happening in town today, I can have a special at my,
Yeah, no, that's a good idea. Our business list is not the same as our subscriber list, but we
Okay.
could just send out a reminder to the businesses.
I think that would be good, because like, I envision like Rhythm and Roots, like, let's say you have a restaurant and maybe you have a special drink that night, or just something going on, knowing that there's gonna be like people coming to any of these, like, I would like to know that as a business.
Yeah, for sure, we can do that. Yeah, we'll do like a little summer touch base.
We'll send it to the Chamber of Commerce, too. and
Yeah, that's perfect.
I have a memory of signing up for the Bartlett Connect. As my business email. And then I don't think it was the same for anybody else too. Can a business do that?
Yeah, you just need an email address or like a device. Yeah,
So we could encourage businesses to sign up on the Bartlett Connect.
absolutely. Yeah, because you'll get traffic updates, whatever you sign up for.
I used all of it, especially when I was more downtown. All of this affected business.
Yeah.
And we are going through our website update, so what you see now that we're showing you, it might change come September, so, but the app for sure is great resources, like you can report stuff right on the app.
How is the website update going?
Really good, we have our design update tomorrow, so they're gonna show us concepts of what the landing page would look like. So we're excited to see it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very good. Anything else with the upcoming events or ideas? Any new business anybody would like to bring up?
I'll say there's a couple things to keep your eye on that are coming down the pipeline. One is the village board's going to be seeing a proposal from A5 for TIF marketing. And that's something, if that goes through, your hands will be in it at some point. So we'll send that to you if it comes to fruition. And then one of the other things to keep in mind that might pique your interest is on Tuesday, the village board is also going to see an update from Housel Levine at 6 o'clock. And that'll be a sneak peek of the work that they've put together so far.
And then we'll
So-
bring it to this meeting in July?
I don't know about that yet, but that sounds about right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll keep you posted on both of those items.
Thank you, Scott. Thanks, Tony. Thanks, Ricci.
Yeah.
Thanks for putting all those numbers together and showing us. The other thing, I know like we talked about doing the tour that I did many moons ago. I'd like to do that again. But I'd like to get that on the calendar so like everyone knows what day that is. So just try to get like the max amount of us here for that.
You should do July or August, and I say that because of daylight.
Yeah.
You know, you get into the fall, it gets dark pretty early, so
I would like to do that in July or August, whatever we can get to get
try to book
all
for
of us.
July, and if that doesn't work, we'll shoot for August.
Okay, thank you. All right. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second, all right. So motion by Commissioner O'Hare, seconded by Commissioner Cook, or everybody over there. No, we're adjourned.